You ever hear a story that makes you stop breathing for a moment? Not because it's spooky, but because it's possible. He drove back to the trailhead at midnight and found a child's backpack zipped open on the bench, muddy footprints leading into the dark. No one was around. That was the instant a Texas park ranger realized something ordinary had become dangerous, and the rest of his night turned into one of the scariest searches he'd ever run. Hey, welcome back. If you like deeply unsettling true stories told like a movie, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Today I'm walking you through a realistic Texas park ranger case. No ghosts, no monsters, just a remote park, a midnight call, and human decisions that spiraled into a crisis. Stay with me. It's late September at Big Bend's backcountry, or a similar remote Texas state park, when our ranger, let's call him Mike, gets a call. A pair of hikers failed to check in at night. That's the kind of call every ranger dreads. In parks like that, the terrain is split between absolute silence and sudden danger. Sudden storms, sheer drop-offs, coyotes, and the fact that cell service is a fantasy. Mike's been on the job for 10 years. He knows the routines. Check the radio, gather the search team, and run incident reports. But tonight feels different. The hiker's car is in the lot, boots gone, a small child's jacket draped over the center console. That detail, small, domestic, wrong in a wilderness, twists the situation from lost hiker to urgent missing person. Why does that matter to you? Because most of us assume the woods are dangerous because of nature. But in too many real cases, the most dangerous variable is other people. The problem I want to dig into is how quickly normal park nights can turn into search and rescue operations that test every rule the rangers know, and how tiny oversights can cost hours or lives. Mike organizes volunteers and calls dispatch. He moves methodically. GPS ping, last known trailhead, wind direction, time of day. He finds the footprints, adult boot prints and smaller prints that don't match the hiker's shoes from the car. The trail forks. One path is a well-worn route, the other, less so, heads toward a seasonal creek and a patch of mesquite. The moon is a sliver. Headlamps paint the trees with thin cones of light. As he follows the prints, things get weirder. There's a campsite 3/4 of a mile in, still smoking charcoal, a coffee can with a brand name sticker. There's a blanket folded carefully, not like someone running. On the blanket, a photo. A smiling family at a lakeside, but one face is crossed out in pen. That's the human detail that makes Mike's gut sink. This isn't an accident. Someone was waiting for someone else. He radios in an update. The dispatcher tells him to be careful, don't approach without backup. But backup is 45 minutes away over rough dirt roads. Every minute in a remote park at night undermines your options. Here's the key insight that changed how the search played out. Mike didn't leap to chase the prints deeper into the brush. He paused, mapped the likely path by triangulating the footprints, and thought about what the offender wanted. In many abductions or violent encounters in remote areas, the perpetrator wants control, time, isolation, and the ability to move a victim without drawing attention. So instead of a headlong chase, Mike slowed the scene down. He set up quiet observation points at the forks, left evidence markers, and, critically, used the most overlooked resource on scene: the park's camera trap network and the ranger's knowledge of local off-grid contacts. That bought him a crucial window. Within 20 minutes, an infrared camera on a game trail 300 yards away showed movement. Not fast travel, but a controlled walk. Someone leading another person by the arm. One figure looked like a child. That footage did more than confirm the worst fears. It told them direction, pace, and behavioral clues. The kind of data that leads to containment rather than chase. It was the moment the search stopped being purely reactive and started being tactical. That pivot, from running blind to reading the scene like a puzzle, is what saved hours and likely lives. They tracked the movement to an abandoned maintenance road. There, an older truck idled in the dark, headlights off. A flashlight beam cut across the bushes. Mike's heartbeat, which he'd learned to ignore in training, picked up. They approached quietly. The ranger team found 2 people. The missing child, shaken but alive, and a 28-year-old man who'd been living off-grid, using the park as a place to intercept people for reasons investigators later called opportunistic and violent. This wasn't a planned serial crime with elaborate traps. It was a combination of access, opportunity, and poor situational awareness from visitors. Faded camper markings, a trail walked alone at dusk, a family pausing without telling the ranger. The man had been hiding near seasonal water sources and access roads for weeks, following patterns rangers warned about, but visitors rarely think about. How easy it is to be seen as lost, how people stop to help, and how that goodness can be manipulated. The arrest was quiet. No one was killed. That's important. But the aftermath left the community shaken. Why had no one noticed the truck before? Why were the cameras not checked sooner? Why had the couple stopped to help alone? The park lawyers did their thing. Incident reports piled up. But the human lessons stuck with Mike. He changed small procedures. Volunteers got new radio check-ins. Volunteers were trained not to split up in darkness. Camera traps were monitored live more often, and ranger shift overlaps were tweaked so someone was always close by after dusk. Here's what matters for you. Wilderness etiquette isn't just about keeping your own life safe. It's about how your choices affect everyone else's. Tell someone where you're going. Stick together. If a ranger gives a trail advisory, take it seriously. Rangers can't be everywhere at once. Your situational awareness is a force multiplier. The kid who was found kept asking the ranger if he would be punished for getting lost. That line, childlike raw, stuck with Mike. He had to explain to a preschooler that getting lost isn't something to be ashamed of, but it's also a reminder that the world can hide very ordinary dangers. Mike left that night with the taste of cold coffee and a new kind of worry. The knowledge that the park he loved could be used as a hunting ground by someone who knew how to hide in plain sight. If this story grabbed you, do 2 quick things for me. Smash that like button. It helps other people find real stories that could keep them safe. And hit subscribe if you want more true, realistic ranger stories. If you got a minute after this, watch our next video. How Park Rangers Find Missing People. It's a deep dive into tactics and real case lessons that can help you stay safer outdoors. One last thing. After the arrest, Mike found a small notebook in the truck. Inside were names, dates, and a single underlined entry, September, another chance. The notebook's last line was a date that matched an old incident report that had been quietly filed away years earlier. Why had someone kept revisiting the same spot? Why had warnings been missed? Tell me what you think in the comments. Was this a one-time opportunist or something more organized? And if you were out on the trail and saw what looked like suspicious activity, what would you do differently after hearing this story? Have you ever assumed help on a trail is always a good thing? What if I told you that one person stopping to help almost cost two hikers everything? Not because of bears or bad weather, but because of a human plan that looked shockingly ordinary. If you love true gut-tightening stories that actually could happen, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Today I'm telling you a real Texas park ranger case. No ghosts, no monsters, just human decisions, a remote park at dusk, and the small mistakes that let danger creep in. Late spring at Enchanted Rock State Natural Area, granite domes, thin soil, and trails that feel exposed and open by day, but eerily empty after sunset. Our ranger this time is Elena Rivera. 6 years on the job, sharp, calm, under pressure. She's used to lost hikers, broken ankles, and the occasional trespasser. What she's not used to is how quickly a simple "can you help us" can become a life or death situation. Two college friends, we'll call them Kayla and Marcus, parked for an afternoon climb, planning to be back before dark. At dusk, they took a wrong turn. Then their phone batteries died. On their way back, they saw a man in the parking area signaling like he'd been waiting. He waved them over and said his friend had hurt his ankle and needed water. Anyone would stop. Anyone would help. They did. Here's the core problem. In remote parks, the rules you learned in a city, be ready to help, can be weaponized. Strangers can manufacture urgency, and once you step off the official trail to assist, your situational advantage drops fast. Elena's evening routine is interrupted by a routine call from a worried parent, Kayla's mom, saying her daughter's last text was a photo of the rock dome, then nothing. Elena radios the on-duty team and heads to the parking area. There are a few clues: Kayla's water bottle on the bench, scuff marks by the picnic table, and a folding camp chair someone had left open facing the far end of the lot. No obvious blood, no screaming, just small human details that dislocate the ordinary. Elena checks the lot's logbook. A man signed in earlier that day with the initials RJ, but no return time. There's an RV parked near the access road with curtains drawn, the kind of vehicle people use when they want to be seen but not identified. Elena canvasses the immediate area. She talks to a dog walker who remembers a blue cooler and a man using a headlamp near the service road an hour before sunset. She checks the trail cams at the entrance. They show the two hikers leaving and then a figure approaching them minutes later. The footage doesn't show violence. It shows conversation, then motion toward the brush. After that, the camera is blocked, like someone stood close to it. That's when a ranger knows this isn't a case of a lost map. Someone intended to remove evidence. Backup from the county arrives, but it's a long drive. Elena's team must buy time. And the better you look at a scene, the more it tells you. The disturbed leaves, the shoe prints with a narrow tread, the way someone placed a small cooler under a bush as if staging a rest area. These are human patterns. They're not supernatural, they're methodical. The breakthrough comes when Elena connects two dots that others overlooked. First, The RV's registration traces to a long-term overnight spot at a private campground 3 miles away. Second, a local volunteer mentions a handyman who sometimes sells ice and water to hikers. An odd but common informal setup. The man asking for help could be a setup to get people off the trail and into a controlled space. Instead of sending a squad to chase footprints into the mesquite, Elena uses containment. She establishes a radio perimeter, posts rangers at likely egress points, and contacts the campground to ask about recent check-ins. Meanwhile, she enlists a nearby volunteer to quietly check the camper's propane gauge. A small technical detail that sometimes reveals whether someone's been living there or just parked for an hour. Within 20 minutes, the campground operator texts back. A gray camper matching the RV's plate was seen leaving just after sunset. More importantly, a neighbor's Ring camera captured 2 figures, one supporting another who looked unsteady, walking toward the main road. The footage also caught the RV leaving later. That gave Elena direction and the intelligence to coordinate a safe intercept on the county road rather than a dangerous pursuit on winding trails. Rangers and deputies set up a stop on the service road. They found Kayla and Marcus minutes later, shaken, dehydrated and cold, sitting on the curb beside an older man in a faded hoodie. The man insisted they ride with him to town for water. He'd parked a camp chair near the trailhead earlier to look like a stranded camper. When Kayla and Marcus approached, he spun a quick, convincing story. His friend had rolled an ankle and needed help walking back to the RV. The hikers, feeling compassion and thinking they were doing the right thing, led him off the trail. He wasn't carrying a weapon, and he didn't need one. His advantage was psychological. He manufactured an emergency and relied on the hikers' goodwill. He'd been targeting isolated trail users for weeks, according to later interviews, watching patterns of when groups thinned out, where cell service cut off, which parking lots lacked night patrols. They arrested him without violence. The man had minor criminal history and a history of transient living. Investigators later pointed to opportunism and predatory tactics rather than a plan for murder. Still, the emotional damage was real. The 2 hikers felt violated and embarrassed, and the community realized how thin the line between helping and being lured can be. Enchanted Rock updated outreach the next week. Rangers started a visible buddy-up campaign. If you're hiking after 4 p.m., sign in at the desk and leave a paper itinerary. Volunteers mounted a small kiosk with emergency water and a list of local check-in times for popular trails. The county placed temporary patrols during holiday weekends when foot traffic dropped but opportunists might be watching. Elena pushed for one more thing, a short public video showing what help scams can look like. Not scary, but practical. What to ask before you step away from the trail, how to keep a safe distance while offering a phone call or water, and how to report suspicious behavior immediately. Kayla later told Elena she felt stupid for trusting a stranger. That shame is common among victims, and it's a heavy after effect. Elena had to remind her, being kind is not a crime. Predators count on that kindness, but survivors must not carry the blame. That moment, consoling a young hiker who felt guilty, is the human core of this story. It's not about policing humanity. It's about changing small behaviors so kindness doesn't become vulnerability. If this story landed for you, hit like, It helps others who hike find these real safety lessons. Subscribe for more true ranger stories and practical tips. And if you want immediate value, watch the video linked on screen next. 3 simple ways to stay safe alone on the trail. It's short, straightforward, and could save you from a situation like this one. After the arrest, Elena found a folded paper in the RV glove box. Not a notebook, not a manifesto, just a ripped brochure with 3 parking lot names circled, and the words, best times, dusk, low traffic. 2 of the parking lots were in small state parks a couple hours away, parks that hadn't reported incidents yet. Was this a pattern planned across parks, or was it copycat behavior? Should rangers across Texas be on the lookout for a string of small opportunistic predators? Tell me what you think in the comments. Would you have stopped to help? And after hearing this, what's the first thing you'll change next time you're on a trail?